Good, beautiful morning, yogis. Ready for class 9. Okay, let's start with giving thanks for the teachings. Body, speech. Body, speech. Body, speech. Okay. Seems like every class, the wind, you always get to hear the wind chimes. Always notice it seems to be louder during class. And so let's continue with the opening prayers, where again we are setting that intention that we are reaching enlightenment for ourselves. Don't want to be born as a hell being, craving spirit, even as a human, if we can be enlightened. And so to get there, we're gonna help all of our family, all the beings on this planet, and then other planets too. All right, so let's do it in Tibetan. Sashi Puki Jokshin Meitog Trang Vira Lingshi Yende Yenpa Di Sangye Shindu Mite Uwargi Brokun Namdak Shingla Dupar Shog Idam Guru Ratnam Madlakam Niratayami. And to reach this state of enlightenment, where we will be in bliss, in Buddha paradise, they say, we do need to seek protection, seek the help of Buddha, his teachings, the Dharma, and those who have already reached there. So let's do the first one in Tibetan, second time in English, third one in Tibetan. Right. Sangye Chudang Soki Choknam La Jangshu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Dakni Jinyin Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Panchir Sangye Drupar Shog. Go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha until I reach enlightenment. By the goodness, by the power of the goodness that I do in giving and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. Sangye Chudang Soki Choknam La Jangshu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Dakni Jinyin Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Panchir Sangye Drupar Shog. Okay. So maybe as a review, it might seem like we repeated this 2 classes because we were first described this in class 7, but last class was Dharma Kirti, debating with the Shavrakas, a group of Hindus from India, about there being past and future lives. And the Shavrakas believed in 3 things about how the mind is connected to the body, which I would say can make sense to a lot of us. One is that they believe that the mind is a quality of the body. Mind is a quality of the body, the same way that the quality in alcohol to make us drunk is part of alcohol. Yeah, so that they're kind of... Another claim from them was that the mind is dependent on the body. Mind is dependent on the body. And example that they say is like when you look at a picture, look at a picture somewhere on your wall. The picture can only be there because there is a wall. Yeah, the picture could be on the floor or on the table, but for it to stay there, for you to see it in that position, needs the wall. And so the mind, according to them, needs the body. And their third argument is that mind is a result of the body. Mind is a result of the body. The way they say light is a result of a candle. Light comes from the candle being lit. So with these three, the Shavarakas are saying, well, when the body passes away, dies at the end of our life, then our mind goes with it, which is what a lot of us believe. And in that way, there is no past and future lives. Right? So Dharmakirti gave kind of 6 proofs last class. First 2 was, one was just saying the mind can't come from something different than what it is. Second one is that the mind must come from something similar to what it is, clear. What is it? Trying to look for that definition of the mind according to Buddhism. Clear, transparent. Yeah, clear and transparent, and aware. Clear and aware. So other proofs that he had shared last week was that they do not come from the elements, kind of elements like are from the periodic table, elements that make up things in our world, because living things don't come from chemicals. And the mind does not, saying that the mind does continue moment by moment, so it should continue after our life. What is the proof, that it doesn't? Then there's also the elements are not the cause of the 3. That these chemical elements, think of, just say, carbon, hydrogen, sulfur, those 3 elements on the periodic table. If those things cause the mind, every time they were together, a mind would be created. It's kind of like baking soda and vinegar. Every time they're together, you'll cause that fizzy, reaction. And the last one that we covered last week was that the elements are not the cause of the 3, because yes, what I just said is just that if you had multiple elements, you'd have multiple minds. Right? So today we got 4 more, and I'll break it up a little just to, I'll explain why in a second. But so proof number 7 is to say, take the 4 elements, which are the basis of the sense powers. Okay? 4 elements, again, fire, earth, water, and air, which again are was at that time the explanation of the energies that are inherent in everything. But everything is made up of these 4 elements, but in different quantities. Liquid would have more water energy in it. Right? Something really solid would have more earth energy. Okay. So these 4 elements are not the material cause of the mind. They're saying the sense powers are not the cause of the mind, because if you damage a sense power, you don't always damage your mind. So, if you, again, damage your eyes, one eye, it doesn't mean that, 10% of your mind is affected, right? One of the famous stories about how damaging a sense power does not damage the mind is a bodhisattva meeting a demon. This kind of story, who was disguised, this demon disguised as a normal person. And this demon asked for this bodhisattva's eye. And one of the vows for a bodhisattva is to give what someone else requests. Usually if it's for something virtuous. So maybe the demon pretended to say, he needed his eye for his parents or something. So the bodhisattva actually went in, pulled out his eye, gave it to the demon, and the demon in front of him just stepped and squished it. And they say, the story is that Bodhisattva almost lost his bodhicitta, kind of that act, what he gave, and to see it kind of thrown away almost affected his mind. But another example, Geshe Michael Roach says, is women giving birth. That, after going through the most severe pain she has ever experienced, that, instead of being depressed and upset, they're suddenly glowing and, in love when they see their newborn in their arms. So, the fact that they'd been so hurt, and basically you could say their body has been damaged, it does take time to recover, did not affect the state of her mind. So proof number 8 of how the mind is not created from anything other than the mind. Let's consider the main mind. Mind provides a basis for the sense powers because it projects them. So this is opposite of the previous one. It's saying mind is the basis for the sense powers. Previous one was saying the sense powers is the basis of the mind. But the explanation here is that the mind actually projects our next life. It's actually the mind's karma. And this is going to be talked about more in the next class, about how at the moment of death, if we have desire, a little bit of gas, that is what causes us to have a rebirth. And if we don't have desire at that moment of death, then we won't. They say arhats will not have a rebirth. And so, supposedly there are some teachers who will teach people, just to, all they need to do to not have a rebirth is to kind of do this chant or say something at the moment of death. But in truth, that moment of death is quite unlike anything we've ever experienced. And I think the default is that it's really scary. Suddenly we feel like we're leaving existence. We are suddenly going to not want to leave. And for whatever reasons, could be for some people their belongings, their life, their relationships. So whatever comes up in that moment of fear, that's what causes the mental karma. And that teacher was saying that if you did not practice, being aware of your desires, up to the point of death, there's no way that a short little chant that you learned is gonna, save you at that intense moment. I guess it's like, maybe that's why they keep repeating how to, the airlines always give us that whole safety before every flight. Doesn't matter how many flights you've been on, they don't really care. They know, unless they repeat it over and over, in that moment of panic, we're not going to remember to put the mask on ourselves, or wear the inflatable vest is, right, or to blow into it. Okay. Maybe the added thing was just two types of karma. There was unripened and ripened karma. And before I do the last two, because actually there is not a lot of material in this class, I did want to kind of come back to the big picture. The past few classes we've been, let me just put something to stop the door from banging. It's almost two previous classes we were going proving past and future lives. Why are we spending the time to, go over these? They say for many Easterners, they're born in a culture which believes in past lives, and so they actually don't even question it. Whereas the Buddha does say, don't take things on sheer belief. Either have a valid perception of it, or, what can be a valid perception, figure out in your mind through deductive reasoning, right? To not just take things on blind belief. So this is where, maybe a lot of Easterners, don't, I just have this belief in it. But to really, analyze it so that it really does make sense to you. So, but why prove it? What is the big deal? I think the big deal of, there are a lot of people who don't believe in past and future lives. Some might believe, this is it. Or some believe, this is the start of their journey, and then there is a future life, but there was no past life. But what might it help you with? And this is where I kind of go, well, if you think about the past, it may explain some of the bad karma, the suffering that you have experienced in your life. For myself, it definitely can explain, why a traumatic experience. I told you about the childhood and the boarding school. Easy to blame my mom, parents, or bringing me there, even though they did remind me over and over I made that choice. But why did I have that experience where my brother instead had the opposite? He loved boarding school. He loved all the friends there. He had a great time, So, there are a lot of, if you're one of the few who hasn't had trauma in your life, I do know a lot of girls who have had, I was just talking with my wife, just have had, been victims of sexual abuse. Yeah, it's almost like, if you didn't have a dream childhood, then that can explain why. If your relationship with parents, maybe again, you didn't have the ideal one. I had different stepdads, father dying before I was even old enough to know him. If your relationships with your siblings weren't the ideal, my older brother, he definitely felt bullied by him when I was young. I was scared of him because he had such a temper. If you had health issues where nothing seemed to help, close the window a little. This is another proof of the emptiness of things, that certain medicine, why are there so many different types of medicine to deal with your, even something as simple as gas, stomach ache, headaches, just because same medicine that may work for majority of people don't work for you. Ones that work for you don't work for others. And, not just to focus on bad karma, how about the good karma? The gifts that you have had in your past. Sometimes, yogis will say, oh, I can sit in a full lotus, They're like, oh, you must have worked so hard on it, or your hips were so open. I'm like, funny enough, I never had to work on it. Just it came. It was what I was born with. So, if you have skills, gifts, maybe your siblings don't, even though you have the same parents, same parenting. Maybe some of you did really well in school. For me, I love school. Whereas I know that's not something a lot of people do. I've used the example of prodigies in sports and music. My wife knows a little boy who loves theater and just runs around singing, and there's no way he didn't have that in his past life. It just is quite amazing to see, because he's like 4 or 5 years old. So yeah, if you yourself, or your sibling, or someone who seems exceptionally gifted physically or mechanically, fixing things, mentally, I feel it really helped me in school to have a great memory, to understand concepts really quickly, artistically. Some people are great with languages. That can be explained by you having, or that person having done that in their previous life. But how about in the present? Does past and future lives help you in the present? Well, I think this is where it's important. It is to remember that everything that we are experiencing today, whatever your feeling is prior to coming into class or right now as you're listening to this, is result of what your past karma was. Despite your best efforts to be healthy, I think a lot of us all are trying our best to be. There are some who are not. I have a good friend, her dad just smoked and drank and was overweight, but he lived to be 80 plus, and seemed to be having a good time and not many complications till a sudden decline and death. Despite your best efforts to, be wealthy. This is the same as medicine, that, you go into the investment section of the bookstore, open the business section of a newspaper, and maybe in the same page, same section, you might hear different advice, sell now because, things are uncertain, others are like, buy now, things are uncertain, things are gonna move, get in the market, get out, same investment strategy may work for some and not for others. And so it's to know, to realize the results that you get from whatever you're trying to pursue are not maybe as much in your hands and as much control as you may believe, which can be quite freeing to know that, what you will experience, what will happen. You can try your best, but you'll have to accept what your karma brings you. So how about in the future? What is the point of proving past and future lives? How will it help us in the future? Well, knowing that you're going to be reborn, if you won't be enlightened in this lifetime, this is why so many people, elders, when they realize their mortality, they see their friends passing away, family members passing away. Michael Geshe Roach says many of them go to the temple, praying for a good rebirth, better health, more wealth, better family situation, in their next life. So if we do want lasting happiness, to not suffer, want to be happy and not be unhappy, what can we do? Well, I think we're all trying. We all have been trying that for all of our lives. There's this wonderful saying my teacher said in meditation: we wouldn't move if we were ready, or the only reason we move is to be happy or to avoid suffering. I think I've shared it before. The only reason we move is to be happy or to not suffer. So conventionally, you can say your life is following something you've heard from probably your parents or from others, teachers, people you've seen in media, read about, think about your work, service, the way you take care of your physical health, what you do or don't do in your relationships, personal ones, family ones, what you do or don't do again with your money. All these have been something that we've heard someone do or trying to avoid what someone else has made a mistake doing, right? But maybe some of them have worked for you. If you had good karma, I'd say probably some of them have. But even if most of those, even if you're the blessed ones who have most, who consider your life to be one of good karma that you're experiencing, you have to admit, you're going to get old. Just got my hair cut, as you can see, and looks like I always get amazed like how much white is in my hair. I'm going to get old, you're going to get old, we are going to die, and maybe some of us will die by being sick, if not by an accident. If you have read or heard some biographies, watched some on movies, TV, you must agree that even those with abundance of fame, fortune, health, looks, whatever, does not necessarily, none of those lead to happiness, lasting happiness. So, if we are, coming back and agreeing with what Buddha is saying, that this life is suffering, this rebirth we continue to take is one where you can't win. You can't, whatever you do, nothing lasts. Then what choice do you have? Well, if he has found lasting happiness, then it might be worth trying to follow what he's saying, which is what he's saying in the other 3 other truths. That not just life is suffering, which you hopefully can now see evidence of, but that there is a reason for suffering, or ignorance, or default mindset of seeing things as self-existent, as existing outside of ourselves. That there is an end to this suffering, getting rid of this ignorance, and that there's a path. The things he tells us to do is a path to the end of suffering. This is what I've gone over last week about the 3 principal paths: renunciation, bodhicitta, wisdom, learning about emptiness, taking refuge in the Buddha's teachings, those who have, to meditate daily, which I am hoping to guide you into after we now just finished 2 more proofs on why the mind is only comes from the mind, right? So proof number 9, consider the mind. It is the cause for the mind to stay, because what keeps the mind going is a mental karma of past lives. So I'll repeat that. Consider the mind. It is a cause for the mind to stay, because it is what keeps the mind going. Because what keeps the mind going is the mental karma of past lives. Then proof number 10, consider the mind of a normal person at the moment of death. It does cross the line into a similar state of mind in the next life, because it possesses desire at the time of death. Consider the mind of a normal person at the moment of death. It does cross the line into a similar state of mind in the next life, because it possesses desire at the time of death. This is what I was mentioning earlier about how we desire at the moment of death, that karma leads us to have a rebirth. And an arhat who doesn't have desire will not have a rebirth. And this is what will be kind of explained in more detail in the next class, the last class. So I wanted to end today with a meditation. It's a good one. It is in that list of meditations I had sent you. And this one is on page 8. It's called the 6 Flavors of Emptiness. 6 Flavors of Emptiness. And what I'll guide you into is 6 wrong views that we normally have, and then explaining the antidote. So maybe before we go into it, I'll kind of just summarize what they are so that you'll know. Wrong view number 1, I will feel this way, same way for a while. Wrong view number 2. Oh, and the antidote to that is my feelings are constantly changing, shifting moment to moment. Wrong view number 2. I control how I feel. Antidote. I have no control of my feelings in the present moment. Wrong view number 3. I'm at the mercy of my random feelings. Antidote. One of my past actions caused both this feeling and myself perceiving it. Wrong view number 4. This feeling is definitely good or bad. Antidote. I'm imposing a judgment on the feeling that is not inherently part of that feeling and could be different. Wrong view number 5. Outside forces are completely responsible for how I feel. Antidote. Outside forces combined with my perceptions compose how I feel. Wrong view number 6. There is some outside factor affecting how I feel. Antidote. How I feel is entirely a projection. All right. So get your self ready for a short meditation, which will kind of just go into these 4 views. So you pause it if you like, use the bathroom. If you're feeling too warm, too cold, put on or take off. Otherwise, you can again lie down if it's not going to make you go to bed. Otherwise, to come into your comfortable seated position, legs extended if you need to for your ankles, knees, or hips, or crossed, or half or full lotus. Again, check your spine's nice and tall if you're seated. You're not leaning to the right or left. Right fingers sitting inside your left, tips of your thumbs touching. Checking your chin's not too tucked in so that you're looking down, or lifted up so that you're looking skywards, upwards. But through the middle of your eyes, you look out towards imaginary horizon. Softening your forehead between your eyebrows, resting the tip of your tongue where the roof of your mouth meets the top of your teeth. And then just connecting with your breath. following your inhale and exhale. Be feeling your body expand and tuck in as you breathe in and out. Can mean watching the little pauses at the end of your inhale and exhale, 2 little pauses that make up part of your breath, each breath. If your mind's really busy, to count your breath. On your exhale, to count 1. Exhale again, 2. Coming back to 1 if your mind wanders away. Enjoying 3 more breaths. Just offering mental prostration, offering your body, speech, and mind, hoping for your body and speech and mind of a Buddha, to the Buddhas and all the Buddhas around. Remembering that they can manifest, appear to you as other beings or other objects. In this recording, I will admit I'm not one. You listening to it might be listening to one. Making offerings to the Buddhas, teachers who have shared his teachings. Whatever you'd like to offer them, that's you can add some water to drink, to wash. Those beautiful flowers you can imagine. Minus incense, sweetest smell, perfume of their body. Form a light. Food, your favorite. Music, your favorite. To just confess anything you've done recently that you wouldn't want directed, you wouldn't want yourself to experience. Thinking of some good karma you done someone else who's done something good. And then to just ask their teachers to stay, not just chill in Buddha paradise, but to be here to continue to help and teach you. And the good karma from this meditation we're about to do will be towards your enlightenment. So check in with how you're feeling right now. Which word or 3 words would you use to describe how you feel? One to 10, 10 being the most intense. How strongly do you feel that? And you may think this feeling will last for a while. But maybe you've already experienced the rise and fall of a moment of emotion. It's like the rising and fading sounds of a plane passing overhead. Or if the wind chime plays once we continue, the sound of that. It comes and goes quickly, and even in the space of its short existence, it is constantly changing by degrees, from softer to louder, to softer to louder, louder to softer, etc. Do you notice that already? We may think we can control this feeling. But actually this feeling and your thoughts about this feeling, notice what they are. Come into your mind without any invitation, unbidden. You never invited this feeling to come and disturb your mind, affect your mind. Isn't that true? Another view some of us may have, maybe you do, is that you feel bombarded with this random feeling. But to be sure, nothing is random. You've been brought to this moment, this feeling. This feeling has been brought to the moment by the same karma. The fact that in the past, you caused someone else to feel the same. So you are fully responsible for this feeling. even if it wasn't just something you just caused just prior. And what is your thought about this feeling? Good or bad? Does it really have to be either good or bad? Because if you look at this feeling as a great motivation for you to practice even harder, so you can get out of this cycle of pain and suffering, and also help those others, other sentient beings. Including your loved ones, and even ones you may not love or feel that towards now. Because if you believe this, then you know this feeling, whatever it is a good thing. A common belief about feelings is that this feeling relies entirely on things outside of you. Bad weather, maybe, or the weather, the good weather, lack of sleep, too much sleep, start of a cold, or allergies, something you ate. And maybe if these things were different, you wouldn't have this feeling. And in a way, we all try to change our outside situations, thinking we can affect our feelings. But in truth, it doesn't really work. And even if everything on the outside is something you can control, you might still have this feeling, good or bad. So that part must be coming from inside of you. And so the outside circumstances, yes, can seem in some case to be a direct connection, how you feel. But it's really the mind that determines that. So last wrong view is that these outside circumstances must play some part in how you're feeling, right? You must have had an experience where when you're happy, nothing can make you unhappy. Think of a time like that. And you've been so happy that nothing can bring you down. Or think of another time when you've been so upset, angry, scared, fearful, that nothing could bring you up. feelings actually have nothing to do with outside circumstances that I thought were affecting them. That is all a projection forced on you. Based on your past actions. The way at a movie theater, you have no control of how what plays on that screen in front of you. You're simply seeing what has been filmed from the past. But this is empowering, because this means you can plant the seeds of what you want to see in your future now. You can create a future, a total joy, every moment of the day. You can create a Buddha paradise where there is no suffering, but only peace and joy, eternal happiness, bliss. Know you're working towards that. And the more you just remember, the faster you're going to get there. Take 3 deep breaths. Wrap up this visualization with a ball of golden light. Let it float away. And just feel your body as you come out of the meditation. Just move wherever your body would like you to. And thank you for doing that meditation, your meditation for the day. So we'll end today with our closing. We're going to dedicate the goodness of what you've done, the karma that you have accrued towards your enlightenment. And towards the enlightenment of all beings, as you will be helping them once you're there. So do one time in Tibetan, the dedication, and then in English. Gewandi gewo kun sunam yeshe zok zok shing sunam yeshe lejong wei dampa kunyi topar sho. By the goodness of what I've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the 2 ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. And we'll end with our 3 full prostrations. Thanks for the teachings. Come down through the lineage. Speech and mind. Body, speech, and mind. Body, speech, and mind. Thank you again for listening, watching. And we'll see you next week for class 10.